Hi, everybody. Joe Cioffi here. Weather in 5 days and 5 minutes. And coming up tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, it's major storm number two of this week. And we've got, once again, a lot of watches, warnings, and advisories that are up, not just here, but across the United States. And we'll be talking about that in full detail. Also, for those of you who are on my subscription platform on Patreon, uh, this Weather in 5 will also include a look at the weather system for early next week and the chances for snow in the I-95 corridor. So that's all, and we'll talk about that too tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast at 7:35 p.m. Okay, the watches and warnings map once again very busy. I've been refreshing this every 5 minutes because after 3:45, they've got most of it, but not all of it done. We've got flood watches up for Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, back to New York City, and south and west across New Jersey. I thought they would start putting up. I thought they would have put up wind advisories too for Friday night, or even at least a high wind watch right along the immediate coast. As of 3:45, they have not done that yet, and we're still waiting for the Albany office and for the Central Pennsylvania office to fill in the blanks. Meanwhile, you do see the flood watches go all the way down through the interior of Virginia into parts of western North Carolina. Wind advisories are up from the Appalachians westward back over into Texas and a few areas in Indiana and western Kentucky, as well as on the west side of the Appalachians. We're seeing high wind warnings also there in western New York. Winter storm warnings from northeastern Nebraska to much of southern Michigan. That includes Chicago and Milwaukee. There should be a sizable 8 to 12-inch snowfall for them. And out in the west, we've got winter storm and blizzard warnings up. Blizzard warnings up for southern Idaho. Winter storm warnings up for most of Oregon, the rest of Idaho, western Montana, down into western Wyoming, and also peppered out to parts of the southwest. So as you can see, it's the cornucopia of of advisories and warnings. We have a little disturbance that's moving across upstate New York, and that's why you see clouds there. There's also some light snow that is going on in some places as that area moves to the east. It's been a nice day throughout much of the mid Atlantic and into the southeast. Also, notice the clouds streaming once again out of the Pacific and into the Gulf of Mexico as that subtropical moisture starts to get in there and out in the Rockies and plains and points westward, the energy that's going to make this next major storm that's going to take a track toward the Great Lakes. Radar as of 3:45 p.m. Eastern Time. You see the light precipitation moving across upstate New York. Snow's breaking out in parts of Nebraska and Kansas. We've got snow up in parts of Montana and Idaho, and more moisture coming in to the Pacific Northwest. Now, as far as rainfall, I'm sorry, I always have to correct myself here. As far as liquid precipitation is concerned, because not all of this is rain. In the Northeast, we're looking at another inch and a half plus from southern Maine to northern New Jersey. And these areas are still compromised from the major storm of a couple of days ago. Rivers are still at their peaks and in some cases still flooding. So this only adds to the problem. The one upside this time around is that we don't have snow melt. The first storm had had a snow cover of up to a foot plus in some places in the interior Northeast. That is not there this time around, so that does help the cause. Rainfall of a half to three quarters of an inch to pockets of an inch and a half from western Virginia down through western North Carolina, and then also a little less on the coast. And you see down in Florida too, we're seeing anywhere from three quarters of an inch to areas of an inch and a half. Inch and a half liquid amounts in southeast Missouri, southern Illinois and Indiana, western Kentucky and Tennessee. On the northwestern corner of this, we're going to see accumulating snows, and also out in the northwest, lots of moisture there for snow, except for rain along the immediate coast. WPCs, this is the probability for at least 4. The salmon color is 80% or higher from eastern Nebraska, northeast through Michigan, and then on the Canada side of Michigan and north of Lake Erie, we're looking at least 4 inches in this band, probably 4 to 8 inch snows or more. And the southern edges go down. Now, some of this goes out into Saturday, so bear in mind that what you see in perhaps parts of north central New York, some of that's going to be lake effect. Also, what you see in southwestern New York, that's going to be lake effect. Maine has a 50% shot, as does northern New Hampshire, a 50% or higher shot for at least 4. And I'll just really quick, we'll put up the probability for at least a foot. And you'll notice there that we've got some high probabilities. 50% or higher from Chicago northward up through the western coast of Lake Michigan, uh, north of Milwaukee, but south of Green Bay. Also on the western side of the lower peninsula. And then when you get on the Canada side north of Lake Erie, you've got a fairly large area of 50% or higher probability or at least to put a foot. And I want to just show you on the long range. This is for next Tuesday, where WPC has now indicated this is the first time we've seen something like this winter for the I-95 corridor. We've got probabilities of 10 to 30% in the light green. In the darker green, that runs from eastern Maryland and Delaware northeastward all the way up to Maine, including Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, Hartford, Providence, and Boston, and Portland, Maine. A 30 to 50% chance for at least a few inches. And by a few, I mean at least 2 or 3. That means there could be 4, there could be 5, or there could be 2 or 3. Uh, Somehow, whenever I use that map, the 2 words "at least" seem to get lost, and I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, so let's check out what the afternoon models are doing. There's uh, pretty much they're all pretty much in line with our system heading for the Great Lakes. You see it there tonight in eastern Oklahoma, moving into Arkansas, then eventually swinging into southern Illinois, intensifying rapidly as it moves up into northern Indiana by Friday evening. Rain will be arriving across the northern mid-Atlantic states to southern New England sometime tomorrow late afternoon to early evening from southwest to northeast. So first, obviously, in eastern Pennsylvania, arriving later in southern New England. And then here comes the heavy rain for the overnight, the very tight gradient. I think inland wind gusts will be about 30 to 40 miles an hour. Coastal wind gusts will be up closer to 50. And we have a new moon tonight, so we're going to see peak tides tomorrow. So coastal flooding is likely. Thinking moderate to, in some cases, major coastal flooding will occur. Uh, Areas like Delaware Bay, coastal New Jersey, the south shore of Long Island, and into southeastern New England, I think, are all going to be vulnerable to some coastal flooding. It moves quickly, so it should be gone by daybreak Saturday morning. A little bit longer, but not much longer for southeastern New England. So this will just move along. And then it'll be windy and it will be much colder as we go into Sunday and early next week. Now, the next round of energy, and I don't think this is going to be a major storm, but we have overwhelming cold air and some energy coming eastward, bringing some snow across parts of the deep south. A lot of the folks in the south like to see snow. Well, places in southern Arkansas, maybe even northern Louisiana, northern half of Mississippi into northern Alabama, and eventually into North Georgia and Tennessee and Kentucky. This would be from Monday night to Tuesday. And at least from the standpoint of what the GFS is showing, a track offshore, bringing snow up the coast during the day Tuesday. And then once that goes by, another shot of cold air comes in behind it. And much of next week, if not all of next week, is going to be definitely on the cold side. So, Joe and Joe Weather Show tonight at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time on my YouTube channel. Weather in 5 plus a written analysis of what's happening with the first storm and with the second system for early next week. That's on my weather platform on Patreon. The link is on the descriptor to this video. So We will see you at 7:35 p.m.